Hello everyone, I'm Craig and this is Running Cafe. I hope you're doing well and you're smashing your running. Now last week I published my first video in about 6 months announcing that I'm going to get back into running and hopefully get back into making regular content for this channel. Unfortunately, shortly after making that video, I went on a couple of runs in the days that followed and I've already pulled my leg. I'm very clumsy. I went into it a little bit too enthusiastically. So I'm now back to exclusively walking and I'm just going to make sure that I focus on not making my leg any worse. Still, I fancied making a video this week, so I'm going to do something completely different in this video. I'm going to be ranking popular race distances using a tier system. It's important to mention that these rankings are coming from my personal perspective. So typically when I enter a race, I will try to do my very best. Also, it's worth mentioning that whilst a race distance is a race distance, there are many factors for particular races like elevation gain and descent, the technical terrain, the weather on race day, which influence how easy or how hard that particular race may feel. So there are just some caveats that I need to mention off the bat before I get into these rankings. All right, let's get into it. Okay, number one, we've got the 5K, an absolutely classic race distance and one which I'm sure that virtually everyone watching this has some experience in some shape or another. Personally, I'm a massive lover of 5Ks. I think they're a nice, approachable race distance for runners of all levels of ability, fitness and endurance. They're widely available. We've got park runs in the UK. You can rock up, do a 5K on a Saturday morning. It's run for the community, by the community. It's timed and they're all over the place. So personally, I've only ever had good things to say about 5Ks and that is why I'm going to place it in the A tier here. Next, we've got the 10K. Personally, I've only ever done a few 10Ks. Mainly they've been in cross-country running scenarios with my running club. The 10Ks I've been in have tended to feel quite competitive, quite fast-paced. Everyone's going for it, particularly in a cross-country setting. They feel really intense and it's quite a long distance to be running at that fast pace for. So for me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of 10Ks. I wouldn't choose to do one enthusiastically if I had the choice. So I'm going to put that into the C tier. Next, we've got the 10 miler. Now there's not actually very many 10 milers around. Personally, I've never actually done a 10 miler, but it looks to be a decent race for upping the mileage in a race scenario, especially for beginners or people that are trying their hand at slightly longer distances. Looks like it's a good distance to step into the half marathon mark. I'm going to put the 10 miler into the C tier, mainly due to my lack of experience in having actually done a 10 miler before. Next, we have the half marathon. Now, I'm a massive fan of half marathons. I've done well over 30 of them in my years of running, possibly up to 40, I imagine. My personal best is 1 hour, 22 minutes, though I couldn't do that now. I think a half marathon is a fantastic race distance. It's long enough to be a challenge, but it's not too long that there's a massive risk of hitting the dreaded runner's wall, which we often associate with the marathon distance. Also, the good thing about doing half marathons is that you can do them more regularly than marathons. The recovery period is a lot shorter, assuming that you don't go 100 miles an hour in terms of the effort you're putting in. So personally, for me, a half marathon has got to be in the S tier. Many good memories doing half marathons over the years, especially with my brother. Next, we've got the marathon. Now, this may be surprising for some viewers on the channel. I'm actually not a fan of marathons, to be totally honest with you. When most people hear the word running, they immediately think of marathon runners in their thousands going down busy city streets. For me, personally, I think a marathon is too far to be going at such a fast pace. Whilst they're a great benchmark for assessing how fast you can do the classic race distance, the 26.2 miles. I've always ended up having a struggle during my marathons that I've done. I've probably done about 5 of them. I've had some good memories, but I wouldn't rush to do a marathon if I got given the choice over a marathon or a half marathon. That said, I will still do marathons in the future. They're just not my favorite. So I'm going to put a marathon into the B tier. Now, the reason I'm not putting it into the C tier is because the marathon is just the classic race distance people think about when they think about running. So got to give it some credit due to its popularity, but it's not my cup of tea, to be totally honest with you. Next, we've got the 50K, and the first on this list, which falls into the ultra marathon category. Personally, I'm a big fan of 50Ks. I've probably done about 5 to 6 of them in the last 2 to 3 years. They're very good for dipping your toes into the world of ultra running if you're looking to up the distance from the marathon to an ultra. And what's good about people doing a 50K for the first time is that it's a good opportunity to see just how special the ultra running community is, which is one of the main reasons why I personally love ultra running. I think the 50K is a fantastic distance. I'm going to place it into the A tier. Next, we have the 50 miler. I've personally only done one 50 miler in my time. It was the Wendover Woods 50 miler by Centurion. That was really tough for some reason. I mean, it was a pretty hard course, lots of elevation gain. There's not many 50 milers out there that I've seen, but they're a decent distance for bridging the gap from a 50k, which is about 31 miles, into the 100k, which is about 62 miles. If that is one of your goals, it's a good stepping stone. I would highly recommend giving a 50 miler a go if you're looking to do a 100k in the future. Probably due to my lack of experience having done 50 milers, I'm going to place it into the B tier. Next, we have the 100k, and this has got to be one of my favourite race distances. Probably done about 6 100ks in my time doing ultra marathons. For me, 100k is the sweet spot when it comes to ultra marathon distance. It's long enough to be a challenge, it's long enough to have an adventure, it's long enough to see enough sights and sounds, typically in the trails, which is where the majority of 100ks take place, but it's not too long that it feels like a brutal, gruesome, horrific slog. For me personally, the most magical memory I've had doing ultramarathons comes from doing the Mozart 100k in Austria, which took us all around the mountains around Salzburg. It was just a beautiful day, and I found it to be long enough to be a challenge, but not too long that it was a death march by the end of it. Big fan of 100ks. I'm going to chuck it into the S tier at the top. And finally, we've got the 100 mile distance, and this is seen as kind of the gold standard from what I can tell in the ultra running community. I've only ever done one 100 miler in my time, the North Downs Way 100 in 2022. It was a really fun, rewarding day, but it was really, really hard. And I cannot stress how much the 100 mile distance should not be underestimated. It's a massive physical undertaking. You need to be properly trained. You need to pace yourself well. And if you don't, you will pay the price for it, unfortunately, which is what I've done on 3 occasions, having DNF'd Thames Path 100, which is another Centurion race, 3 times now. The last 3 years on the trot, I've failed that race miserably. I've taken a lot of learning from that, and it was quite a humbling experience to have DNF'd. Today, the Thames Path 100 is the only race I've ever DNF'd, and in the future I'm hopeful that I will beat it. For me personally, a 100 mile race isn't my favourite, mainly due to my lack of experience in them, and probably because I've had a few bad memories, limping, having to pull out of the Thames Path 100. So you could say I'm a little bit biased or jaded by 100 milers, but I'm not going to throw in the towel by any stretch of the imagination. I will definitely do another 100 miler one day. I'll definitely finish one day. I know a lot of people love 100 milers, but for me personally, at this stage in my running, it's just not my favourite, so I'm going to place that into the B tier here. There you have it, my rankings on popular race distances based on my personal opinions and experiences with these various distances. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree with any of my choices. I'm very interested to hear what you think. Thanks so much for watching, guys. It's been something a bit different today, a little bit of fun. Hope you make the most of your running over the festive period, and I'll see you in the next one.